So I try to keep this video as short as I could. Guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Eric here from E&M Guns. And I'm not a huge fan of Dr. Phil's, but I'm starting to like him a little bit more and more. He's definitely gone away from his Oprah days. Let's stay tuned. In this next clip, you'll see Dr. Phil brings on a couple experts from a trial lawyer from Dallas and then a district attorney from LA, and they kind of break down the case.
This could happen to ex-President Donald Trump. It could happen to any one of us. I believe that this is a travesty of justice. I believe it was unfair to Donald Trump and an abuse of our legal system with damaging consequences. And this is not about Donald Trump. This is about abuse of process. This is about due process. And this opens a Pandora's box of extreme proportion. The hush money that this whole thing was predicated on, there's a problem with that. And the problem is that there's nothing wrong. This is a made-up term to sound scandalous, but that's just another term for a non-disclosure agreement, is it not?
There are thousands, millions of non-disclosure agreements. Their very purpose is to hush up the person who is receiving the payment to be quiet. That's what a non-disclosure agreement is. And this prosecution in this case was allowed to say that paying her for silence was illegal. But she had no duty to tell that story. She had every right to keep it quiet or sell it.
And not only that, there was a lot that wasn't in the indictment that the DA then put into a statement of facts later. But the issue and the problem with that is every defendant under the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution has the right to know the charges against them. In this case, the indictment didn't lay all of this out. In fact, no one found out about this until during the trial.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
That is a problem.
A huge problem.
That's a very big question of whether due process was violated here.
Yeah, and that's what we're saying. If you get charged with something, you kind of ought to know what it is.
Right.
And if you go on trial for something, you ought to kind of know what you're being tried for.
That's right.
Because you kind of want to make your defense in response to what you're being tried for. And if you don't know that until during the trial,
yes,
that's a problem. Do you believe this case will be reversed?
I do, undoubtedly.
You don't think it's a close call?
I do not. Now, I don't know the New York Court of Appeals, but
that's the issue.
I wanted to share my final thought about this order. I do know that the #3 person in the Department of Justice took a pay cut and went down in stature to go to a state job and become one of the lead prosecutors in this case. Don't be naive, people. Understand that there's a power play going on
It's
here.
controlled by the White House and the DOJ, 100%.
You know, Gerard Baker wrote in Wall Street Journal today, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, what do we say to those people that are rejoicing over reducing law to the status of a weapon in the hands of the dominant political power? Because that's what's happening right now. It's become a weapon, and that's not what it's intended for. That's not what we need to be doing. I mean, let's let the people decide these, right?
November 5th, which I think is going to be the most important day in the history of our country. If we don't turn this around, we're not going to have a country left anymore.
I'm going to allow them to ask about all that stuff. What does any of that have to do with the matters at hand? And the answer is zero. That gets into the jury box if you take the witness stand.
By the way, Biden was totally exonerated. Now, I'm not sure I want that kind of an exoneration. They basically said he's incompetent to stand trial, but he could be president. Think of that.
So as you can see that interview with Donald Trump, President Trump, he kind of goes over, and I've only played excerpts of it. I'll link the full video so you can watch it. But there's things about trial we didn't know, that he could have been, the judge was allowing testimony or line of questioning that had nothing to do with the case, just deprivating his character. So he was going to allow questions about his $91 million loss to E.G. Cowling, or whatever her name was, and then asking other questions that really had nothing to do with the case at hand. So that's why Trump didn't take the stand.
This weaponization of our great institutions, the FBI, Justice Department, and individual states' similar institutions, will lead to one of two outcomes. One is more of the same from the other side, tit for tat. That may seem deserved, but it is not the right way forward for America. The other is what I call on you to demand from your politicians today, an end to this craziness in order to save the soul and sanity of our country. We need our Justice Department to return to the business of meting out justice and not running the political agendas of those currently in power, blindly seeking convictions, warranted or otherwise, and attacking political opponents.
Guys, I've got to agree with Dr. Phil. It's not about Trump. It is about kind of the Nixonish style that Biden's going after Trump with. You know, Nixon never got accused or never got convicted of it, but he was using the FBI to investigate rivals. The Watergate scandal was basically him breaking into the Democratic headquarters to get a leg up on him. We can't allow our country to go down this road. I don't care if you don't like Donald Trump. It is not a matter of like or dislike. It's a matter of principle. Our justice system should never be weaponized. That's basically what Russia does. Vladimir Putin had his rival killed in prison. Is that the kind of road we're going to go down? We're going to become a Russia? I hope the American people have in their hearts to say, no, we're Americans. We believe in democracy, and we're not going to allow this to happen to our country. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you have a blessed week. I spend a little bit of time at the range this weekend. I'll bring you those videos. I plan on shooting my homemade ballistic gel, and I'm going to test out a new homemade bulletproof armor. You guys have a great week. God bless. Peace out.